It's May 2024 and 120 years ago, the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, informally known as the St. Louis World Fair, opened in 1904. This spectacular event was meant to showcase the global achievements of an up-and-coming American empire. Government funds totaling $15 million financed the event, and exhibit spaces run by 60 countries and 43 states attracted 19.7 million people that year. The event marked 100 years since the Louisiana Purchase, the acquisition of the land which now forms a central part of the U.S. The deal was made with France without consulting the Native Americans whose land they later obtained by treaty or by conquest. That approach is similar to how the US bought the Philippines from Spain without consulting the Filipinos whose land they declared as theirs. So while the 1904 St. Louis World Fair was meant to promote entertainment, consumer goods, technology, new food, and popular culture, America's racism and imperialism were also in full display. 40 different Filipino tribes were on display across 47 acres of the Philippine Pavilion. They were about 1,100 Filipinos, with 700 of them being Philippine military who were there to control the tribesmen. The Filipino indigenous people were trafficked under harsh conditions. Some of them did not survive the trip. Burial plots were prepared in advance in St. Louis cemeteries. The traditional burial practices were not allowed outside the fairgrounds and were done only when the audience was available to watch. Some of the bodies were also given to the Smithsonian, which collected body parts of indigenous peoples. According to CNN, this happened in the early 1900s under the direction of anthropologist Ales Herdlicka, who wanted to prove his now debunked theory that white people were superior to people of color. They have since apologized, and they returned specimens to the tribes in 2023. Within the Philippine Pavilion, tribes choreographed ethnographic displays, and traditional customs were restaged day after day. They also had competitions when the savages would compete in physical contests for the amusement of white audiences. Fairgoers were also told that Igorots ate dogs. So even if dogs were eaten for very specific ceremonial purposes, Igorots were fed dog meat every day at the fair for fairgoers to watch. Many of our countrymen were also poorly prepared for the fall and winter season, with many catching pneumonia. Ang vibe nila, parang performer sila sa Disneyland, pero may kidnap factor. It was not the end of it. A man named Dr. Truman Hunt, who was the governor of Bondoc at some point, saw how the Igorot tribe was the most popular at the St. Louis World Fair. He decided to exploit them for financial gain. Hunt created a human zoo in Coney Island in New York, where he displayed the Igorot tribe in Bahag and showed off what made them such a hit at the fair. Hunt would have a dog unleashed, and he instructed the Filipinos to catch the dog for meat. He lied about the savage behavior to newspapers, and this brought foot traffic to the human zoo. Dr. Hunt was eventually arrested and jailed for embezzling the wages of the Filipinos and the money they earned from selling handicrafts. The government stepped in to bring all the Filipinos home. So mga Amerikano lang ba ang may human zoo? Hindi po. Ginawa rin sa atin ng mga Spanish yun. In 1886, the Spanish first displayed natives of the Philippines in an exhibition in Spain. The Queen Consort Maria Cristina of Austria endorsed the academic value of the human zoos. By 1887, the Igorot people and indigenous animals were sent to Madrid and were exhibited in a human zoo at the newly constructed Palacio de Cristal del Retiro. Because the tribe's people were exposed to the elements, at least 4 people died. While these human zoos were meant to help educate the West on the indigenous peoples of the world, the sensationalism around the business of operating a human zoo fueled racism that later made it difficult for our leaders to fight for our independence. Many journalists, researchers, and filmmakers are trying to bring the stories of the people trafficked in human zoos out to the world. Among them is Ren Galeno, who shared the byline with Washington Post reporters Claire Healy and Nicole Dunca for the story Searching for Mora, about a Filipino woman who traveled to the US for the 1904 St. Louis World Fair. The story was a finalist for a Pulitzer Prize. The stories of those who came before us matter. Period. O, diba?
Meow meow.